He didn't want to see.
Madam Chair, I have an amendment at the desk that I would like to be considered as read.
Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with. The member from Washington is recognized for 5 minutes on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just over a month ago, the administration sent to Congress an urgent supplemental request. That is to help address the humanitarian crisis that we are experiencing at our southwest border. It simply asked for $4.5 billion to address this crisis. Now, I hope that we can all fully appreciate and acknowledge that there is a crisis at the border. It has been talked about already several times. Just last month, over 144,000 apprehensions were made. 144,278, I've been told, were made at the southwest border. Compare that to just 2 years ago. The same month in 2017, just under 20,000 apprehensions were made. And what's even more troubling than those numbers, and listen to this, out of that 144,000, almost half were children, and 2/3 of those are family units. I got to tell you what we've learned. The Department of Homeland Security, our HHS also are overwhelmed with the surge of migrants arriving at our border, with the majority of those being children and family members. HHS will soon exhaust all of its resources to maintain proper care for these migrant children and family units. Without these additional funds in my amendment, HHS will only have a further exacerbated crisis, which I hope is a concern for all of us. We're all compassionate people. I was told just last week, over 30,000 people were waiting to be processed just standing out in the elements under the hot, blazing sun. And how can we sit in this air-conditioned room of comfort and allow that to go on? And what's even more troubling is that unaccompanied alien children and the family units will continue to make the dangerous trek to our border every single day. Every day that we sit here without taking action. And the further strain that is put on our agencies to provide proper care for these children and family units is a day that more people are suffering. So again, this is a straightforward request. $4.5 billion in total. $3.3 will go towards increasing shelter capacity, feeding and general care of migrants in custody, and transportation. $1.1 billion is to increase border operations, including border operations for personnel and efforts to further combat human smuggling and trafficking, which was mentioned by the good lady from Ohio. There's an additional $178 million to fund mission support and improve migrant processing by upgrading computer and information systems so that we can adequately maintain accountability for migrants in our custody. Not always seen as a spokespiece for the conservative cause, but even the New York Times editorial board this week wrote in their op-ed, and I quote, "When will Congress get serious about the suffering at the border? It's time to cut the squabbling and pass an emergency relief package." They state, and I quote this, "There should be no ambivalence about the urgency of addressing the humanitarian needs. While lawmakers wring their hands and drag their feet, tens of thousands of migrant children are suffering. Congress needs to get serious about dealing with that suffering." So, without our action, we'll continue to place these children and families in further peril if we do not give the men and women at our border the resources that they need to carry out the jobs that we ask them to do. I think we can all agree that this is the right thing to do, and I hope that this starts the conversation of addressing the crisis at our border. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield back.